Welcome to Fredmans. My name is Adrian. Joining me today is Fabian. He is looking for his very first Rolex. So I've brought out a couple examples of the Datejust and a date, and we're going to discuss the differences. All of these Datejusts are 36 millimeters.
Perfect.
Except this date, which is a 34 millimeter.
All right. Super. It doesn't look so much smaller.
Surprisingly not. The date was released after the Datejust as a simpler version and only as a 34 millimeter in the beginning. The Datejust originally just came in 36. And the date was meant to be a simpler watch. Most often not came in an oyster bracelet. Seldom you see these on Jubilee. And in the beginning there were some two tones like this one and also some solid gold, but later on when the date actually took off they made it mostly from stainless steel with a white gold bezel around it. So it's meant as the Datejust's little brother basically.
They all look nice. I can just begin with, what's the name of this?
Datejust Turn-O-Graph.
All right. So this is, do you know the function of the bezel?
Well, what actually was the intention of that watch was basically an experiment from Rolex part. In the 50s they released the Turn-O-Graph series as kind of an experiment to test out people's basically thoughts of what they were gonna think of a watch with a turnable bezel that's not a dive watch.
Yeah.
So this was meant basically to function exactly the same as, let's say, a regular Submariner, but just to measure elapsed time so you remember. So let's say you're boiling some eggs, you need to remember 12 minutes from now, then you turn the bezel and there we got 12 minutes. So it's basically an egg timer around the watch. It's like how I like to see it, at least.
All right. And it's bi-directional?
Yeah.
Yes. The use case you can say in some sense is kind of the same as a dive bezel?
Yeah.
More or less.
More or less the same, just not on diver's watch to measure elapsed time.
So why I wanted to begin with this is because it's not my style. It's a gorgeous sunray dial and with like a champagne or beige color, But yeah, I would rather have either the solid, is the name of it?
Smooth bezel.
Smooth.
Yeah.
Or
Regular fluted bezel.
yes, instead of this. If I would have a Datejust in disguise, this would be, I think, the watch for that. But no, it doesn't feel like a Datejust.
I can agree to some extent on that. It is a rather unique watch. It's actually the first Turn-O-Graph I've seen with this bezel that looks more like dive bezel. The newer Turn-O-Graphs, they're discontinued in 2011, but from 1990 somewhere forward, they were using the regular fluted bezel but with markings on it and it was turnable. But the fun thing about this is the only one for sale in the world right now with the champagne dial. There are a lot of them for sale, or well, I shouldn't say a lot, but about 75.
Okay.
But basically all of them have either the black, gray or white dial. There are none in the champagne color.
So you have right now a unique watch for sale?
Yeah, you could call it that.
So the reason we have 36 millimeter watches here is not just because the original Datejust, correct me if I'm wrong, was 36 millimeters.
Yeah, that's...
But also because I have a small wrist. I have approximately 16 centimeters, I think.
Yeah.
And you have?
I have about 19 centimeters around.
So pretty large.
Yeah.
So I would say for you, actually, this would look acceptable.
Maybe. Depends on the situation. If I'm wearing it with a suit, it could work. It is, however, a bit small on me, even with the bezel that sticks out and makes the watch look a little bit bigger. All right. I will disqualify this one right away.
All right, so we have 4 left.
So, are you looking more for a steel watch, two-tone?
Is this solid?
Yeah, basically everything Rolex makes is always solid gold all the way through. If you see it, It's not solid links, they are hollow, but it's no gold plating, nothing like that. So they basically just take a sheet of gold, bend it around to form the shape of the oyster bracelet.
Because I didn't like the Turn-O-Graph. I can choose the watch I know that you like the least. And I like maybe the most, but that's the Date.
All right.
So I can say why I like it. 34 millimeters is, with this bezel, I think it still looks like 36. I don't know exactly why. It's strange.
It's very similar. The case on the Date is a bit more straight-edged.
Okay.
So if you compare it to a Datejust side by side, it's a bit easier to see. But the Datejust case, at least to me, it appears that it goes out in a bit more of a curve, and the Date looks a bit straighter.
Yeah. But I think this looks awesome. I like that with almost any Rolex, especially with the Oyster case, you get the screw down crown.
Yeah.
I mean, we can find brands today which doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So I think that's super impressive. I love that. I mean, if I compare it with this, is the bezel. It's more low key on the Date than this regular newer Datejust, which, I mean, it's a matter of taste, but
the thing about these is that this has the most known bezel, the fluted one, which basically everyone recognizes. This has what's called, some people call it a coin ring bezel. There is not really such thing on a Rolex. Coin ring. So the outside of a coin. This is actually called engine turned.
Okay.
So where there are small lines in between the raised, basically indices of it. And a fun thing about it is all of these line up with the minute marks on the watch. So there are 60 going around the entire watch.
Datejust in 36 millimeters. It's also a perfect size for me, and a bit more modern in the size. Yeah.
What you're looking for in a watch it's basically a rule of thumb. You can go under it, you can go over it a bit. It's about 60 to 70% of your wrist should be taken up of the lugs. On me, I prefer it a bit smaller, so this watch maybe takes up about 60% of my wrist, but a lot of people tend to want to be around 80%, 70%, and both of these fit well into that category on your wrist.
That's actually pretty good. I haven't heard that before. The ones, of course, this is subjective, what you like to have on your wrist, but I've bought before watches that are, as the same. Yeah. And then when I bought it, it was like, okay, this could work. But now, when I owned watches for a lot of years and bought many watches, I like them a lot smaller. Yeah. So I think, what did you say, 70%?
Yeah, about 70% is the sweet spot.
That sounds pretty good, actually.
Because when you're looking at watches that are going to take up your entire wrist, lug to lug,
First of all, they're going to wear a bit uncomfortably since the bracelet is going to go straight out and it's going to create a gap between the lugs and your actual wrist when it's all the way out. But a watch that's a bit smaller is also going to feel a bit more supple on the wrist. It's not going to be in the way as much. So this is actually the biggest watch I usually wear. This is a 42. And I almost find it not uncomfortable, but compared to like the 38 watches I usually wear, it's a lot more noticeable on the wrist, especially when you're moving your hand.
This I really like. Although the case polishing, for these three, on the upper side, it's brushed. But on this newer, on the upper side of the bezel, it's polished.
That's more of towards the dress way. Like for me, a Datejust with a fluted bezel is going to look a bit more sporty. That one, which has the regular flat bezel, is going to look a bit more dressed up in a sense. It doesn't have as many angles. It's going to look a bit more elegant. That's at least my opinion on it.
I would actually say the opposite, but all right. I think this is the perfect all-round watch, I think. To have with you.
Because the good thing about it is it works with everything. Of course, Rolex being Rolex, they're famous for being
used with everything. You can wear a Submariner to a suit as well, but that one ties up excellently with jeans and a t-shirt and also to a suit. So you can use it whenever, wherever you want. And it's gonna look good all the time. Compared to a two-tone watch, of course, they are gorgeous as well, but they're gonna be a bit more blingy. Might not be the best fit to a suit depending on the color. For example, for me, having a champagne dial to a blue suit would not work that good, and especially in two-tone.
Yeah.
But this one, it's black, it's silver, works with everything.
So if I would try to minimize these so I can pick a watch, even though I won't probably buy a watch today because I want it to be perfect for me, my very first Rolex and very first Rolex Datejust. Is this 100% steel or is it white gold anywhere?
The bezel is white gold.
But not anything in the bracelet?
No.
But even though I like diamonds, not on a Datejust, I must say.
All right.
So this...
All right, so these two follow now.
Yeah.
Left the three.
I think the Date, I mean, if I could get it with a really good price, fine. But I don't know, I think the bezel will bother me if I compare it to a newer or a Datejust.
All right. Well, the thing to think about as well, the Date and the Datejust side profiles are completely different. This has a lot more outstanding glass, which is going to be a lot more visible. So this bezel makes the watch look a bit more meaty in a sense.
I would actually say, it's really good that you told me that because I like this more, the glass.
Yeah.
This feels very flat.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So both of these are sapphire?
No. This one, the Date, has a plastic crystal over it. This is what's called Hesselite. A lot of old watches used it. Some watches still use it today, such as the Omega Speedmaster, the regular moon watch. But it's meant to be more resistant because glass back in the days was a lot more fragile than it was today. Now, this watch, that's from 1987, so sapphire crystals were around and regular glass crystals were around. But being on a Date, it was meant to be the more affordable little brother of the Datejust. They chose to put acrylic over it instead.
Can you do anything about scratches?
Yeah, they're super easy to buff out. You can use what I use. It comes in a small tube. It's called Polywatch. So it's meant for plastic glass over watches. But I heard people using everything from fine metal polish to toothpaste even, that can buff out smaller scratches.
So these two left. Two-tone, I would say I have not so much problem about buying a vintage Rolex Datejust.
Yeah.
Even though I would prefer a more modern clasp and bracelet. But I would like to have a white or brighter color on the dial.
Yeah.
Because when you have two-tone, black and gold is nice for some, but it's special. White gold, it's more clean.
Yeah, and it's going to be more subtle and not stick out as much.
Yeah.
And for the price, you're looking at 114,000 Swedish crowns in this and 121,900 in this. So as far as price, we're not too far apart. So
and the gold is, I mean, if you would melt this down, it's soup. It's not much gold.
It's not much at all.
No,
we're
so you can't say that it's worth the price in gold.
No.
For a black all-round watch, black dial all-round watch, it's perfect. What do you think?
It's a great watch.
Can you say anything that's not boring, but any other thing about this watch that you feel are on the negative side, on my wrist?
Well, there's one thing, but you kind of stole those words from me already.
Boring.
It's that, everybody has one. Or at least everybody knows what it is, and it's one of the most sold luxury watches in the world.
I can feel it, like, right away. The modern, like,
the difference is very noticeable.
Yeah.
On these older watches, you have hollow links.
Yeah.
So they're gonna feel a lot more wiggly, and they're gonna be able to bend a lot more side to side. So in a sense, they're gonna create more comfort on the wrist, But of course, when you pick up the watch and feel it, that's gonna feel a lot better.
Back to this watch, it's perfect for me, I think, but it's also the watch that, because it's steel and a black dial, it has a lot of competition with other brands and other models, which you can't say with the, for example, two-tone Datejust with the fluted bezel. It's, of course, you can maybe find some. No, I don't think you can find a similar watch. It's so iconic.
No, all the similar watches are basically straight up clones, which does not feature the Rolex logo, but there are going to be no watches from basically a real watchmaker that looks almost identical to this one, which makes it a bit fun as well.
You got me 5 watches. I really enjoyed looking at them, feeling in them, and like the differences and the historical perspectives. And do you have a favorite of these?
My favorite would be the Turn-O-Graph, the one you ditched first. And that's for its uniqueness. I like watches that are unique and tell a story, which this one, I find this one doing a really good job of. It's unique, it's the only one for sale in the world right now. It was meant to be an experiment when it first came out, which is a fun backstory behind it, and it's a conversation piece more than this, which is a very nice watch, but it's not really in the same matter like this one, a conversation starter.
No, but yeah, thank you so much for taking your time and showing me these watches, and yeah, thanks.
No problems, great having you around.